Maresca's new tactics have led them to being the current top scorers in the league with 15 goals so far. He's already implemented a style which has transformed the team and given Cole Palmer a new role, which is turning him into more of a monster than he even was before. So exactly how has Maresca improved this Chelsea side so quickly? Now, the first thing to point out is two key stats that we found that show the growth that has been made by Chelsea in terms of their form last season to this season. So, in 22-23, Chelsea had 15.9 unsuccessful touches per 90, which was the third worst in the league, and they were dispossessed 9.7 times per 90. Whereas this season, Chelsea are averaging only 14 unsuccessful touches, which is still the 8th worst in the league, but they're also only being dispossessed 8 times per 90, which is the 4th least in the league, or 4th best in the league. So this tells us that Chelsea are making fewer mistakes in possession this season, which as a byproduct, teams are unable to catch them off guard defensively as often as they did last season once they've given the ball away. Which is quite ironic, as Chelsea just conceded to Brighton at the weekend by doing exactly that. Sanchez having a bit of a stinker there. But overall, Chelsea have looked more comfortable in this phase this season. But why is that? Well, the first reason being the team's structure and shape. Often last season under Poch, Moises Caicedo would find himself stranded on an island of nothingness as Chelsea gave the ball away, and both fullbacks were staying in their normal positions, and Enzo Fernandez often moved up alongside the number 10. It left Caicedo with this enormous amount of ground to cover by himself. Whereas now, Maresca, on the other hand, is very intent on inverting a fullback alongside his holding midfielder. As we touched on in our Maresca video before the start of the season, Chelsea often form this 3-2-5 shape on the ball, with a fullback inverting alongside Caicedo and Fernandez moving slightly higher to play as that box-to-box midfielder. So this has provided them with a far more stable base shape. If the ball is lost, they've then got two players in those central areas to mop up the danger and then counter press if needed. So these positional tweaks, which we did actually see Poch make towards the back end of his time with Chelsea, they have seen their defensive numbers massively improve, now conceding fewer shots per 90, fewer goals per 90, and importantly, fewer XG per 90 this season compared to last. So once you've got this more set structure under Maresca, it then gives the Chelsea players a better platform to go and perform. And you can already see after his first few months at the club, players know their role. This is another reason why Chelsea are going to give the ball less often, as they always know where that next passing option is going to be. And if you have a look at the passing networks from last season's games to this, you can already see the difference in connectivity between Maresca's side and Pochettino's side. And whilst Maresca's changes have already shown good signs of improvement, another factor that we mustn't neglect is this Chelsea squad is very, very young. It's maturing, they're getting more minutes under their belt, and therefore they're just making fewer mistakes. So Chelsea got a lot of heat for buying a lot of seeds, and by seeds I mean you've got these guys that are just potential, right? And one seed that needed to be watered and loved was Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill is he's looking more and more comfortable in that central centre-back role. Moises Caicedo is looking more comfortable with an inverted fullback alongside him, and even players like Noni Madueke and Jadon Sancho, who are showing real maturity to secure and retain the ball in dangerous areas to avoid easy turnovers, which lead to counter-attack chances for the opposition. I'm getting a flash of Cunha for Wolves last season. Remember all that? Many Chelsea fans, when they first heard about the appointment of Enzo Maresca, I think they would have been worried about that stubborn nature of his philosophy, some of the arguments with the Leicester City fans, and might have been drawing comparisons to Maurizio Sarri. However, I'm here to debunk that narrative, as whilst Maresca hasn't fully shown us the full extent of his controlling possession style of play yet, what he has done is adapt and tweak his tactics in order to give Chelsea little edges in games. And we have to look at the Wolves game. Chelsea were actually drawing 2-2 at half-time, and this was the first time that we saw Maresca make a bold move. He subbed off Mudryk at half-time for Pedro Neto, and actually in the Bournemouth game, he took Neto off for Sancho at half-time, and in both cases, they went on to win the game. Too many times last season, Pochettino waited for the penny to drop before making changes, but Maresca, he's already showing that he isn't afraid to make those big decisions. And I think just as importantly, he's seeing that those decisions need to be made nice and early. But it was the Crystal Palace game that things got really interesting, as many were expecting Maresca to set his side up in his usual rigid 3-2-5 in possession, but he didn't do that. Instead, Maresca altered his build-up pattern to have Caicedo drop between the centre-backs on the ball, Enzo Fernandez and Gusto. They pushed up as the sort of number 8, 10s, and it was actually Cole Palmer dropping in to receive the ball in that vacated middle space. And I thought this was really quite clever from Maresca, as it allowed Chelsea to overload Palace in all areas of the pitch by dropping Caicedo into the back four. Chelsea created that 4 versus 3 against Palace's first line of pressure. You then had Palmer, Enzo and Gusto playing behind Palace's double pivot, allowing them to outman them 3-2 in midfield, but also play directly through the lines and attack the Palace back 5 with 6 men. It's called an overload. The Italian has shown he has far more tactical fluidity than he was given credit for upon his arrival, dropping deeper off against West Ham to cut off their spaces. They thought it was going to be the other way around. It led to them not having those runners in behind, such as Bowen and Kudus, and playing with less possession against Brighton, but exploiting their high line in getting in behind and creating chances. Winning games with 47% and 41% possession, I think, look, once in a while, with the right context, is actually a massive plus and highlights, again, the profiles of this group, which is that this team has a lot of pace. And speaking of which, Maresca has been getting the best out of natural wingers in wide areas, as seen from the form of Noni Madueke and Jadon Sancho. He's also managed to get the best out of Nicholas Jackson, who's already got 7 goals and assists in his first 8 games, but maybe the most impressive of the lot is how Maresca has somehow made Cole Palmer the best player in the Premier League. Like he's a legitimate FPL captain option, aside from Haaland and Salah. Yeah, you just don't see that nowadays. Now, we already saw the brilliance of Cole Palmer last season, scoring 27 goals and providing 15 assists in 45 games. But has Maresca somehow managed to take him to another level? Well, Maresca is really tapping into the entire package here when it comes to Cole Palmer this season. He's using his expansive passing range and, you know, his elegance in deeper areas to unlock the game as well. Here's an example of him doing exactly that, dropping into this deep right pocket to receive the ball. Now, as soon as he gets on the ball, Brighton are so worried about him, he instantly attracts 2 men to close him down. But his composure in those tight spaces, and I think importantly, his self-assurance on the ball, it allows him to simply drift forwards and slot the ball between the 2 players into a teammate, taking 6 players out of the game, by the way. The lad is an absolute magician. He makes football look effortless. Again, he receives the ball in a deeper pocket on the right-hand side, attracting a man out to press him. He then, first time as players are shifting forwards, plays a pass over the top against their forward momentum and creates a golden opportunity for Jackson. And this is another common theme with Cole Palmer, the arrogance to try first-time clip passes, slotting passes between defenders, even if the gap seems too tight, and even playing no-look passes like this to Madueke. His teammates are so confident in his ability to find them. They are instantly looking to make those runs in behind. There's such trust there. Quick brilliance of mind and speed of thought on the pitch that I know people laugh about when they talk about Cole Palmer because he can be a bit slow with his answers in interviews, but there's no fog in that mind when he's playing. After his 4 goals, Palmer's goals per 90 are now higher, 1.07, than last season, 0.76. I don't think anyone said that. I certainly didn't. As well as his key passes, expected assisted goals, and assists per 90, all being up this season as well. And if all that wasn't enough, the audacity of the lad, you know, to try and whip this out of the bag for his 5th goal, it's that hunger and desire. It's meaning that he impacts every moment of the game. And that could well put him in the running for Player of the Year award. He's certainly right up there at the moment. One player quite similar to Cole Palmer, Michael Olise. We broke down how brilliant he is and how he has become a world-class player. If you want to check out that video, you can do by clicking right here.